Hi, my name is Lindsey Butkus. I am an occupational therapist and I hold an executive certificate in home modifications. Today, I will be discussing the role of the occupational therapist in home modifications. I've been an OT for over 14 years, and during the COVID pandemic is when I really realized the need to allow people to stay safer in their homes, even if their homes were not outfitted to work for their specific needs or diagnoses if they had anything with a progressive nature. So I dove into expanding my knowledge base by getting additional certifications and education and experience in helping people assess their homes. And I'm really excited to share my knowledge with all of you today in hopes that you'll know the right places to go and who to ask for in your own area to find an occupational therapist that can assist in modifying the home to allow people with MSA to stay home as long as possible. Let's get started. So what are home modifications? So according to AARP, home mods are retrofits or adjustments to existing homes that are undertaken to improve physical accessibility for people with disabilities or for older adults who choose to age in place. Occupational therapy as a profession helps prevent or reduce risk for performance problems, modify the demands of any sort of activity that someone undergoes in their daily life, create a healthy lifestyle if someone doesn't already have one, or promote a healthy lifestyle, whether they are able-bodied or are suffering from a disability. And then occupational therapists help people maintain or even increase their performance. You may have heard about occupational therapists who work with someone who had a stroke. That would definitely be a case where we would be maintaining or increasing, my apologies, increasing their performance because of their new acquired inability to do certain things. Now, how occupational therapists are right for the job of home modifications is that we take our observation of the physical structures of a person, what size they are, what their abilities are, what their strengths are. And then we also pair that with our knowledge of disease processes. So seeing someone now is just a bit of a snapshot, but understanding the disease and how it progresses allows us to know what it could look like a year from now, 4 or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, depending on what the disease is. And then also the PEO model, which is a person, environment, occupation model, where we can bring any one of those sides together so that there's more of an overlap and allow someone to be able to perform in their desired activities. And when I say activity, I don't mean, shooting hoops necessarily, but the activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, eating, sleeping. I think you get the idea. Now, any occupational therapist can do the things that I just spoke of. There is specialized training for those of us who want to work in home modifications. So these are some of the credentials that you can look for, and even some of the organizations that you can look up to see if there's a credentialed provider in your area. Any sort of working professional can achieve these first list of certifications. CAPS, which is a Certified Aging in Place Specialist, which is offered by the National Association of Home Builders here in the United States. It's over the course of 3 classes, provided real time with a live instructor in person, or even now offered virtually. And it includes universal design principles, which I will talk about in a little bit. Then there is the ECHM, which is what I obtained, the Executive Certificate of Home Modifications. It's provided asynchronously over the course of 4 months, and it's very extensive training offered by University of Southern California's School of Gerontology. And they do maintain a list of all of the providers that they have trained on their website. CHAMPS, which is the 3-day intensive in Jacksonville, Florida. CLIP, Certified Living in Place Professional, someone has been training for 16 hours and renews it annually, so they will have up-to-date information, which is another good one that you can look for. And then the National Aging in Place Council offers their specialized training. Now, there are organizations that are specific to occupational therapists and trainings offered by them. HMOTA, which is the Home Modifications Occupational Therapy Alliance, covering the United States and Canada, and American Occupational Therapy Association Environmental Modifications Group that only OTs can be members of, and there's shared learning throughout these groups. And you can reach out to HMOTA to see if they can connect you with an occupational therapist in your area. And then there's the Capable program, which is not nationwide, but it's in select cities. It is the training for occupational therapists and registered nurses who then come as a team, also with a like a home builder, to perform the assessments and make it medically based, and any sort of adjustments that need to be made to the home in the cities that they cover. So some people have heard of American with Disability Act, or ADA, and a lot, sometimes home builders or construction professionals will say, well, I can fix this for you. I work with ADA. And that's fantastic. But home modifications are not the same as ADA. And the reason because of that is that the ADA is a law that protects civil rights for people with disabilities and enforces access to public spaces. It creates design standard minimums for public buildings and environments, such as a ramped entrance, a handicap accessible toilet stall, but it will never be specific to any one user and their specific situation. So here are some questions that I like to inform people that they could ask of any professional who comes into their home when they're trying to determine if they could hire them to do any recommendations for how to modify their home. How do you foster collaboration with experts in the following fields? Housing, aging, disability, and healthcare fields. Do you follow best practices to evaluate, install, and follow up on any modifications that are made? Now, this is an important one because research has shown that these 3 steps are what make the most effective modification in a home to help reduce fall risks and hospitalization. It requires all 3 steps, especially the follow-up, which means after the work has been done, that professional comes back into the home and ensures that not only things were installed correctly, but that the user can use them. What tool do you use to make recommendations? Maybe they use an online software that helps capture all the information. Is it HIPAA compliant? And do you have discounts from manufacturers? Sometimes partnerships between home modification professionals and equipment suppliers allow them to get a discount, and it's worth asking. because they might be able to pass that discount on to you. This is a very general coverage of some of the areas that need to be addressed around the house. I won't read everything off of this slide because I will be going into greater detail on the subsequent slides, but I want you to get to kind of see how a home modification evaluation can assess all of this in a house and outside of the house. And it should, because there might be some areas that you might not even think of. Yes. Whenever I go into someone's house and they're saying, well, I'm mainly concerned about my bathroom. Well, if I notice a barrier to the entrance of the house, I will also evaluate that and talk with the homeowner about that, or, the resident about that. So you can see we're going to cover the entire home, apartment, condo, you name it. Here are some specific ideas for those with MSA or AMS. Fall prevention is number one. In order to reduce the risk of falls, we want to reduce the number of transfers or changing position from one surface to another. Different ways of doing that, in addition to training people, is a roll and shower, making sure there's enough room to reach. So when a caregiver is providing assistance, making sure that they have room to maneuver around things and reach you, or reach the person with the disease, and room to turn in space. So I remember one house I went to one time, and they were a little upset because they recently redid a massive total gut job on the master bathroom or the primary bathroom. And it was beautifully done, and completely inaccessible because it was too narrow. There wasn't room for the patient because I was providing therapy. There wasn't room for the patient to turn around while in a powered wheelchair in the bathroom. So could only go straight in and back straight out, which wasn't user-friendly for him or safe for him or anyone providing help for him, because they would also get trapped behind the wheelchair if they went in before he did. An elevator that serves a reclining wheelchair is something to consider, or a chair lift where the whole chair is lifted. Also, conserving energy expenditures, doing regular daily activities. So being able to do things from a seated position and having a device to get there. Increasing the ease to reach items, maybe that typically would be on higher or lower surfaces. And then improving communication, alert systems, or smart technology in a certain room or even throughout the home. So let's get into it. Some of the meat and potatoes of what some home modifications can look like. Here we have an image of someone using a safety pole for standing up from the toilet. And what's really cool about something like this is that the handle that he's holding onto on the lower hand can actually rotate around. So it could be a constant thing to hold on to when rotating in space. It's also tension mounted, so it doesn't require any drilling in the walls, the floor, or the ceiling. And people seem to really like it. The bathroom is the most common area for modifications when we're speaking generally about all home modifications being done. The lack of accessibility and function is a major reason for moving to assisted living, and considerations for bathroom safety, accessibility, and function include the flooring, ensuring it's non-slip, low glare, grab bars, some people call them handles, sink height, maybe making it higher, lower, or having room underneath for the legs, so it could be reached from a seated position. The toilet height. So standard toilets used to be 15 inches all across the board. If transferring from one device onto a toilet and there's a huge degree of difference in height, we would need that toilet to be brought to the same level of whatever other surface is being transferred from, whether it's a wheelchair or a shower chair. It just makes it a lot safer and easier. The new standard is comfort height toilets, which can be found almost at any home improvement store, and that's closer to 17 inches in height. Now, I'll admit that's not for everybody because not everyone is tall enough that they can even have their legs reach the floor when they're on a height, but just be aware that there are different heights. And then bathroom accessories. So one of the most common things that I find that I'm recommending is replacing standard towel racks with a grab bar towel rack combination so that it isn't ever going to be reached as a touch point, but to hold someone up. I'll say this in a way. A towel bar is for a towel, not a human. So it is really discouraged to grab onto them to try to stabilize ourselves. So it's a lot better to use a grab bar that's combined with it.
Lindsey,
still can
I'm
look really
sorry.
nice. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We had a freeze on your
Uh-oh.
image, okay, and it was coming back when you were talking about maybe 30 seconds or so back on
Good.
the various type of grab bars and on about replacing the towel racks with the
Okay.
grab bar. So you could just put yourself in the same position you were, and I'll dissolve between the two or do some type of trickery where we pick it up from where you were talking about towel racks and grab bars. Okay?
Okay.
What I'm talking about? Okay. All right. You can begin anytime.
All right. And last is bathroom accessories. For example, a towel bar. They can be replaced with a grab bar towel rack combination. So it not only is beautiful, but it's much more functional and safer to use. Here are some more images to give you some ideas of some of the things that can increase accessibility and usability of a bathroom and really improve a person's safety. On the left is a chair that transfers from the outside of a shower into a shower, and it's on wheels, but the whole platform itself is stationary. This chair can reduce the number of transfers. Next is a handheld shower head. Some people have them already, some don't. Very easy swap out, and can make it easier to take a shower from a seated position so you can direct the flow of water. Next, we do have a combination accessory. This one is a toilet paper grab bar combination. And last is a mirror that adjusts on swivels so that it can be directed and angled down or up, whichever direction, so that someone can view themselves in the mirror however they may be positioned. I'll talk a little bit more about grab bars, but I don't want to harp on it. They can be installed vertically, horizontally, those typically are the best. I know in the past, I used to always recommend it to be on a diagonal, but it's not really the most efficient way for people to push up from. It kind of encourages pulling up, which isn't a stronger way to get up in a bathroom, especially in a slippery environment. And there are different coatings on grab bars that can make some better in the shower than others so that the hands won't slip on them. Anyone that is ever installing grab bars will know or should know that they need to be installed into studs or blocking behind a wall. And they can't typically be installed into tub surrounds, those with the fiberglass. There are new options with special mounts that can be installed without a wood backing for stability. And that's starting to really increase the ability of people to have them in spaces where they don't really know what's behind the wall and don't feel like knocking the wall open to find out what is behind it. There are so many sizes and shapes of grab bars, L shape, floor to wall, and corners, round, like this image that could, the round one on the top, which could be kind of right around the knob in a shower. So there's a good sturdy thing to hang on to while manipulating that rather than grabbing onto that. And integrated, like the toilet paper one, the towel rack one. Fold down grab bars are among my favorite things, probably because they were installed in the bathrooms at my very first hospital that I worked at. And they were just so handy when we were helping people in the bathrooms there who had just undergone a hip replacement surgery or a knee surgery and needed to be able to move around in there, but it didn't take up too much room at all times. And they're really handy because they really extend out forward enough so someone doesn't have to reach behind them to reach a grab bar. And then they can be folded up out of the way when they're not in use. And they come in all different finishes too, not just this hospital stainless steel finish. The super pole, like I had shown in a previous image. And then something that needs to be considered is the actual user functionality. What the strong side is, maybe someone has been more impacted on their left side. It's a little bit weaker. So we need to make sure we're capitalizing on the strength of the right side. Visual abilities. Sometimes we need something that is going to pop visually, a high contrast color or just a bright color to make it easier to spot and see. Or if there is a loss of vision on one side, then making sure our safety features are on the side where we do have vision. Grip strength is also something that we need to consider. And range of motion, like I mentioned, not having to reach behind us. Maybe we only have range of motion below the shoulder level. Those are all the sort of things that the occupational therapist would glean from the full evaluation so that they can make very customized recommendations. All right, let's move on to the kitchen. This is a space where lighting is really important, making sure that not only is there overhead lighting, but maybe also task lighting, and lighting that wouldn't create a glare. Items usually need to be within reach. That helps us conserve our energy so we're not having to reach all the way up high or bend down low over and over. So there's different ways to do that. Here in the image is an example of that, where we have the dishes are able to be on this adjustable shelf that the whole thing is lowered down and it's within reach. A faucet, typically single handle faucet, is easier to manipulate with a lever than dual handles. And also levers are easier than knobs. Maybe technology incorporated into the kitchen. Safety technology, automatic shutoff on the stove, movement activated technology that can help as well. Sometimes just with reducing reach, like you've seen those automated faucets probably where you just move your hand in front of it and it turns on. I've seen that on trash cans too. Simple things to reduce the number of touches and having to reach. A safety that we talk about for everybody is a temperature control on the water so that nobody could get scalded by the water getting too hot when it's turned on full all the way. And that's typically not performed from the kitchen itself. That's at the water heater. And then flooring, again, talking about non-slip and easy to go over, usually durable. different things like that. So the needs would be discussed at the time of the evaluation. Let's talk about smart lighting. Lighting things smartly helps minimize the risk of slipping or tripping. It reduces the need to search for switches, and we want to ensure that all pathways are well lit. This can be done easily by either having lamps right at entrances or maybe setting up timers on lights so that the lights automatically come on when it is dusk or whatever time is needed. All right, let's talk a little bit about stairs. Improving the visibility of each stair tread and making sure that they're non-slip, ensuring handrails are installed on both sides and are sound, and very sturdy. Some people use stair lifts. Straight typically can be installed more quickly than a curved one, which has to be custom made. Elevators are an option inside and outside of houses now, but we would need to make sure if a user is using a wheelchair that it's large enough to fit the wheelchair in maybe even any of the positions it could be in. Lighting, again, on stairs really helps reduce falls. And a chair lift, that's one that lifts an entire wheelchair up the stairs, so someone doesn't have to transfer. In the bedroom, I would want to look at how someone transfers in and out of bed to determine needs. Could it be something simply like raising and lowering the bed height, adding a bed rail, transferring over to a hospital bed, using something like a super pole? Do we need to improve the lighting, making sure switches are within reach from the bed, or smart lights and night lights? I like this example here of the night light where it's integrated right into the wall outlet. We would also want to look at clothing access. Where is it? Is it a hard reach? Are we really having to bend over something? And is there room to maneuver around the bed, around the furniture, or does some of that need to get cleared out? Talking about clearing things out and making sure there's plenty of room, hallways. Hallways and doorways, we want at least a 32-inch width to be able to accommodate a standard walker or a wheelchair. For doors, there are a few options for being able to increase the width of a door frame. Adding a pocket door, using a barn door, making sure the door swings out rather than into a room, especially a bathroom in case of falls, and then offset hinges, which is what you see here in this image, because that can sometimes just help us gain 2 very vital inches. We want to protect the walls from mobility equipment, dings and scratches. Removing any clutter. I see this in pretty much every home I go into. We love our decorations, but oftentimes those can be the most hazardous in case someone is walking and loses their balance and falls. And then I don't like telling everyone they have to remove their rugs. So sometimes rug tape is necessary if someone wants to keep their rug for comfort and the visual appeal of it, but we want to make sure it doesn't slip. Here's some image of an entrance that went from a 3-step plus a landing into a front door, now with a modular ramp, which doesn't require concrete footings, and it can be removed afterward. And then you see a little ramp heading up to the front door too. So there's no parts where someone has to step up on anything. I will go through some of the community resources where you might also be able to, users might be able to find and connect with people that can help with home modifications, and even maybe connect with free resources or funding. Any local area agency on aging, a city or county center for independent living, which here I have an image of what they share, what centers of independent living do. Any recipients of the housing and urban development grants, typically those are nonprofits, Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together, and AARP. Payment sources for home modifications include private pay, tapping into a person's savings or using cash, long-term insurance, which usually has to be enrolled in previously, loans available through banks or builders, grants, either local or nonprofit or nationwide, such as the Centers for Independent Living. Now, Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans are covering evaluations when performed by a therapist, a licensed therapist, when it's part of a treatment plan and requires a diagnosis, a doctor order, and there will be a full evaluation with goals. Now, there's possible for some additional coverage for equipment and Medicaid waivers. It's for use in the community when originally used only in institutional settings, but it does vary state by state. I really appreciate you attending this talk today, and I will be happy to answer questions when the time comes.